Well, hello, Sara.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I am so honored, truly, that in my adventures of Fireside Chats with Lisa, that we're starting this brand new journey together. It just gives me so much joy.
Absolutely.
So, hey everyone, I wanted to introduce Sara Gasch. She has been an incredible, incredible healer for me in my journey from wounded to healed, from very, very challenged to a place of divinity. So Sara, when we were visiting, just before we got started, I asked you a question, and it's, what is the most important piece that you would like to share about what you do?
You know, I come from a place that felt very wounded, very unloved, and very much holding a lot of trauma, both generationally and from this lifetime. And what I get the most joy from and the most satisfaction from and what really fills me up is when, because I've navigated from that into a place of peace and joy and self-love and healing into wholeness. Not that it's not a journey that continues. And when I can help people move from a place of trauma to peace, from a place of self-hate to love, when I can facilitate a healing that happens with them where they can connect to who they are divinely, what their purpose is, and step into that. Beyond all the false beliefs we may have and the wounds and the limitations and everything our experiences tell us of that we are, which is not who we are, because we're divine beings. So that fills me up, that really makes me happy, and that really excites me to see that happen and that shift happen.
So as you have experienced this most incredible renaissance internally, and as you're sharing that through all your different platforms, what is the most important way for you to communicate when someone is seeking and they've got this uncomfortable, miserable experience going on, and they know that there's something that is divinely pushing them, even though you know it's just uncomfortable and you got to get rid of it.
Right.
And so when someone's experiencing that and they say, hey, I really want to know how I connect with Sara, which is the best way for them to find you?
Oh, to actually find me?
Right. To say, hey, I want to start a conversation with Sara to find out that she might be able to lead me through this journey.
Well, you know, I do offer a free consultation for people when they just don't know what even energy healing or what any of this is, and they're just curious if it could help them. But I have that on my website, so they can go to my website, thegroundedpath.com. They can find me on Facebook. They can private message me. There's different ways they can find me. So, and we can have a conversation without, you know, so that they can see if it even resonates with them.
So I relate especially because of how I found you, and it happened to be a mutual friend who went and had some hand analysis done.
Okay.
Right? And so Deb was sharing, this was such an amazing revelation where you can actually see the map of your journey in your hands.
Absolutely.
Where you've been and where you're going.
Right.
And how to identify those markers. And so it's like, wow. So for me, in that initial, oh man, just following intuition to connect with you. And I know a lot of people, especially through the journey of what COVID has brought to our world, where we're
Mhm.
either so fearful or in doubt or worried or stress, and in looking for an avenue that actually is supportive to,
Absolutely.
basically in bridging you from where you're at
Mhm.
to where you want to be ultimately
Absolutely.
and
Mhm.
experience. So in making it so available for folks, so say your website again.
Thegroundedpath.com.
Yay.
Yeah.
And Facebook.
I believe I just changed the name. It was something different, and it's changed to Sara Gasch. If you go to my personal profile, then you can find the business page, but it's Sara Gasch, The Grounded Path. At The Grounded Path. So
Because everything's evolving.
it's all about, then that just changed. So I'm actually sitting here going, I might want to check that on my phone and see exactly what that is. Maybe it's Sara Gasch with the Grounded Path. That's what it is. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Is the business page now. I've had it for quite a while, but it's gone through transition, so.
well, one thing that you have helped me realize as we transition and transform and transmutate, it's still in that moment, because that moment it's like, okay, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
The next 5 minutes or the next week,
Right.
time, it's going to be something different.
Mm-hmm.
You've really helped me realize that. And
Things are always changing. We are, a lot of times in this life we just don't know who we are, and that is one of the things that we struggle with. Like, who are we? And we're defining ourselves based upon the world, based upon what our parents told us, based upon how our husband responds to us. I mean, all these different factors are telling us who we are, but that's not who we are. And we are in an ever state of transformation. There is no end point to who we can be, who we choose to be, who we know that we are, because it's actually not about being something separate. It's not something we get to. It's something we are, and it's like an unveiling into that. And when we unveil and we see who we really are as these divine beings having this spiritual experience in this physical body, then we can really, when that light shines through, that's a beautiful point. But here's the thing, the light can only get bigger. And so we can only grow more. So it's a constant evolution. It's a constant transformation into more wholeness, more fullness, more who we are. And that encompasses all parts of our life. So,
wow.
so even in reference to a Facebook business page, that transforms and changes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
What would your self 40 years from now be saying to you now?
Ooh, 40 years from now, what is myself going to say? Let go of external expectations. That's just what instantly came to me. Let go of what you think you're supposed to do or what the world tells you you're supposed to do. Let go of your sense of being judged based upon that, of it having to be good enough or at a certain level, or just be. Just follow that heart space, follow intuition, follow divine, follow that guidance system, and be that place that allows you to experience joy. So all things with joy. I can literally hear her saying, Sarah, just let go of those other expectations, what everybody else says. Let go of all of that and just step in with joy. Just step in and follow that inner compass.
So a follow-up to that question would be your current self speaking to yourself 15 years ago.
Oh goodness, now that's powerful. That's really powerful, and I'm sure you can see that in your own life. Who I was even 5 years ago is not the woman that sits here now. Like, there is such a stark difference that I don't know that people from the outside looking in see it as much, but I know it from the inside looking out. I would tell that young woman from 15 years ago, that she's enough. Just to know she's enough and she's worthy and she's loved. To quit fighting that truth, because that's truth. We are all infinitely loved and worthy and enough, infinitely. And that woman that I was at that time did not feel it. And I had so many wounds that I didn't even know existed. And I was deeply happy in my like having kids. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was very happy in that aspect. And I did experience a lot of joy, but I never felt loved or lovable or worthy enough. There was always this external goal I had to reach. There was always this place of guilt. Can I be me without feeling guilty? Can I really do the things that I want to do and not have to get permission for them? So I would say to her, start the journey. Love yourself. Know you're worthy simply because you are. Step into that divine light that exists inside you. Know it.
Did that person, even 15 years ago, 10 years, 5 years ago, have any awareness of divine light?
Yes, but not like this. Absolutely, because we're all filled with it. We always have a sense it's there, and that's why we feel that deep pain, because we know it's there, but we're just unable to see it.
So describe to me that deep pain.
Well, I'd have to go back, actually, I think it's 30 years now. The deep pain of, I was totally separate from divine at that time. You're never separate, but I believed I was separate. And I had no belief in anything external, God, creator, source, divine. And that was a deep wound. And when my brother died, which was a catalyzing moment in my life at 16, at that moment, I went into that deep space. And I didn't have divine to fall back. I didn't have a catch system. My mom was deeply wounded. I had a cascade of events happen. So I was like, I don't even know. I was taking care of a terminally ill child at that time full time. I dropped out of school. I mean, it was like this huge hole. And there was a deep sense of guilt that I didn't save him, that I didn't do it. So I really went to a really deep place. And a lot of people know this feeling, even if that didn't happen. And I didn't have that sense. And things started happening that were really interesting, where miracles started happening. I heard my brother's voice. We would see the sun open when we were putting his ashes into the river. Things were happening that were saying, maybe things aren't what I think they are. And as that was happening, I went into this place, I got very depressed, and I felt like I shouldn't live. And I got suicidal. And I remember praying one night, even though I didn't believe. And I remember I prayed. And I prayed. I mean, it was a supplication for relief. It was a supplication for healing. It was, please let me know it's going to be okay. And I woke up, in my dream, which I don't call a dream because it happened. I was in a space where divine came to me and held me, and I felt it. You could see the white light all around. I have never felt that loved in my life, even by my mother, who loves me deeply. Wrapped me in this love, and the only words I remember were, the Lord works in mysterious ways. All will be well. It's okay, and he is protected in the arms of love. And you are protected in the arms of love. And I woke up and the light was still there. It was dark and the light was there. And I said, okay, things aren't what I think they are. And so from that point forward, I knew there was something. There was no doubt. There was no shaking that. There was no stepping. It was as if I had to go as dark as I could go so I could come out to this place. So I knew it was there. So I knew that was there. But I couldn't feel that place of love. I couldn't feel that place of worthiness inside myself. There was just something, and I was searching for it. I was actively reading books and studying, and I believed that about everybody else, and I could see it. It was just this paradigm I lived in. So yes, the divine was there. Could I see my relationship to it? Not well. I just had the faith it was there. But did I see I was connected to it? That was the journey. That's what creates the wound. The biggest wound is not that other people don't love us. The biggest wound is that we don't love us. The biggest wound is that even further than that, we are not loved by divine, because how could we be? And yet, the reality is, how could we not be? That is who we are. So no, I wasn't in the same place, but I did have an understanding 15 years ago. 30? No.
How incredible for leaving that former Sara with a roadmap for enlightenment, for awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So I have listened to Carolyn Nace and several others, and she has a technique where you actually write a letter,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're able to post it
Right, absolutely.
right to
Mm-hmm.
your prior versions of who you once were,
Mm-hmm.
which in
That's a beautiful thing to do.
isn't
Mhm.
it incredibly
Mm-hmm.
empowering, so that that roadmap, which always exists,
Mm-hmm.
can come to them, especially at those moments where you just
Well, and
experience
absolutely.
the shroud of darkness, but there's always light.
Always.
Always. So the illusion of the darkness, but man, it's very real when you're going through
When
it.
you're in it, it's there, and it's difficult to navigate through. And all you're searching for is that light. Here's the thing, that's a powerful technique to send that to, like send that letter to that younger or to that older or to whatever point self that you are. Because time is just a construct of right here, right now. Our body holds the memories of everything. We hold that, if we haven't healed from it, we're holding that past situation, who we were 15 years ago, in this moment, unless we've healed from it, unless we've realized what we learned from it, unless we change the beliefs around it, the trauma from it, whatever that is. So doing that letter actually allows you to move back in time, through the time-space continuum, through the laws of time, into that space, healing at that time, literally, so that you can be healed at this time. Because there's always a reason for everything. It happened for a reason. We don't have to continue experiencing it the way we did, just because we learned something valuable from it. But that is an incredible exercise to help you heal from those places. And to also give yourself the wisdom, of what you're going through and what you're learning. And wisdom is so much more than knowledge. Knowledge is what you've learned. Wisdom is what you've internalized, taken from it, and brought forward into the world. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
It is. Yeah.
Yes. So continue to study, as
Yes.
it comes to mind right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you were sharing with us earlier, in who we are and our experience that we're having, every instant it's a reset,
Absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
And so the more we bring into our super consciousness, we can
Yes.
embrace more of whatever it is that brings us joy.
Absolutely.
And one thing that occurs to me is my daughter once upon a time would say, "Mom, you just have to go have more fun."
Right.
And when I had opportunity to really reflect on fun for me, I realized my fun was different than her fun.
Yes.
So what,
Yep.
what does Sara like to do for fun?
That's kind of funny. That is funny.
It is.
So here's where the aspect of understanding what your soul map is comes in, because it gave me permission to really go into my fun place. Because for me, fun, it is fun. It's doing this, it's talking to you, it's hearing your story. It is going sledding with my kids safely, because I don't like huge jumps. But the fun is, that's quilting for me is fun, but the biggest fun for me is learning, like taking new classes, filling up on that knowledge, connecting to the knowledge I already know. The things that I know, like you feel it, there's a connection there. It was like that with singing bowls for me. Man, I didn't know what those could do or what they sounded like, but I just knew I had to take that class and you know, become a practitioner. Those different things, it's parts of my soul calling to me to reawaken to these things I already know. Like I just know I'm connected to that. So that to me brings me so much joy to do that, to explore that, to give myself permission to do that. But man, joy is in everything. Meditating brings me joy. Connecting, having sessions or having the opportunity to really be plugged in and bring messages through, that is joy. That is pure joy. I mean, I love it. So when you can feel that and you just sit there in wonder and humbleness and awe of what is available out there, which isn't out there, it's in here, but it's here. But to know that I'm one little tiny grain of sand in that microcosm, you know, in that macrocosm, and I'm, you know, in this, and I'm like, that brings me so much joy to see the miracles that exist out there, to be a witness to that and not to understand probably most of it. But some things are way beyond my understanding within this body. So,
and isn't that just a miracle
Yeah.
in and of itself,
mhm.
in releasing the
Right.
need to understand everything,
Mhm.
whereas it's when you're able to connect and realize from that
Mhm.
intuitive place, this is where I just, whoa!
Oh,
you
it's
know,
fun.
my-
It is so much fun.
my
Yeah.
joy just,
Mhm.
you know, spreads all across the planet.
Mhm.
And thereby, in its very nature, helping the
Absolutely.
whole interdependent
Well,
grid.
because when we move into states of joy, peace, love, those virtue, those high vibrational energies, when we move into that in our heart space, our heart has more neurons than our brain. We are sending that out, and so it is connecting. Let peace be with me is a really big thing. And it is not just impacting you or your family that by default experiences it. It's impacting the whole world because it goes out there vibrationally. When I change a belief inside myself, and I witness it being cleared, I witness it on a level that we call the historic level, or the level that connects into the collective conscious, the grid of all of that. When I witness it being released, I witness it being released from there too. It's impacting all, though not all will accept it or take that, but it's going into, the intention isn't that it's clearing anybody else's beliefs, but it's the knowledge that that energy vibration signature has shifted within that.
And people.
People, it will impact, it will impact.
Vibrationally, right?
Yes. So, this is how things can shift, and all you have to do is work right here. Right here. Not that we don't sometimes work out there too, but yeah.
So my next question for just our collective humanity, we're listening to news,
Mhm.
can be a bit disturbing.
Can be.
It can be. And for those who just are struggling between what is truth and what to believe,
Yeah.
what are your words of wisdom for that?
Well, it's a challenge. It is. There's a lot of information out there right now. There's a lot, news is a difficult thing to watch right now and has been for the last year. We're going through a historic event right now. Whichever your whatever your belief system is and how you look at the event. Because there's lots of different beliefs that people have about it. Either way, it's impacting people greatly. I would say allow yourself to step back a little bit. Just to step back. Because when you're emotionally involved with something and it's charged, it's very difficult to see it for what it really is. So to understand, with all the news that's out there, with everything that's happening, we react to things based upon our own beliefs, the construct of what we have going inside of us. I.e., COVID hits, and if your ancestors maybe, were around during the Spanish influenza, maybe they watched people die, maybe they experienced that, you hold that trauma in yourselves, you're going to react to a virus differently because you're already holding that trauma. We know that with epigenetics. So you're holding it and you're responding based upon that, okay? That happens in everything. That's not right or wrong, and that's not a judgment. The fact is it's there, okay? That's the power of changing beliefs, of clearing trauma, of doing that so you can get to a place of balance. So that you can see that here's a virus, what do we do with it, what's the safe, you can look at it with perspective without going into fight or flight, though sometimes fight or flight is appropriate, right?
Correct.
We have it for a reason. It's important that we know when it's unsafe. It's important to take care of ourselves. So when it comes to with all these different messages and all these different things, we have to realize that we're all coming from different vantage points, and that's why it can be so difficult. That's why people see things so differently. They have a whole different construct of beliefs that's moving within them, that's creating their experience. So when you're looking at it, the very first thing I hear is just to step back. Step back for one, and take a deep breath. Get heart-centered. When you get heart-centered, you're going to reset. When you get into a place, and that might be hard when this is going on the screen, maybe turn the screen off for a minute, step back, breathe into our heart space and connect into that. If you can, find something to feel gratitude for or compassion for and feel into that heart space. That actually triggers a cascade of reactions within our body. Connect into that. Get into that space before you come back. And then see it, try to see it with a discerning eye. Now, what you focus on is what you will create. So if you're watching the news 20 hours a day, it's going to be very disturbing. It just is. So come back in from this place and then see it for what it is. Know that your beliefs are going to create where you see it there. That's the advice I have for that right now at this time. The other thing is all people, treat them with, there's value in treating people with love, with, in peace, with harmony. Still seeing them and respecting them even if we don't agree with them, which is difficult when we really disagree with the belief system there. And I'm seeing this on both sides. So moving back into center, the heart space of peace, harmony, respect, even if we disagree. So.
And as an individual expression of divine, as I get centered into my heart space, and not to say that it isn't challenging at times,
it can be.
With someone who has a completely different belief system, as you recommended, take that deep breath and feel gratitude for the fact, this is one thing I bring into my own consciousness, that I am here right now and that I can make a choice.
Always.
Wow, so it's like, well, I can actually choose to extend some kindness to someone that I'm just not getting where they're coming from.
Right.
Doesn't make a lick of sense to my belief system, but for them it does.
Right.
And I have no idea what journey they've experienced. I have no clue. So even driving down the streets of Butte, Montana, where we have very little traffic, but you can end up with a traffic jam and someone turns in front of you or cuts you off, or runs a red light,
Right.
just as an example. And I know that, man, that could bring up some anger. It's like, really, what's going on with you that you've just entitled to do that, right?
Right.
And then it's like, oh, if I just breathe through this, God knows, maybe perhaps their child's in the car and is experiencing some exceptional medical trauma and they need to get somewhere.
Right.
Or that their loved one just passed 2 hours ago and their brain just isn't aware of what they're doing. Or maybe they just decided it was more important for them to make that left-hand turn and not. But in that just simple awareness of saying, look, come on. Is it much better for me to feel gratitude and joy for the fact that we didn't have to have an accident?
That's true.
Right?
Yep.
Or something of that
Well,
nature.
when you shift your perspective, you can shift within the moment and you can make a different choice when you shift that perspective. You know, everybody else is doing things not to get us, not for any reason to, even in relationships, people are doing things based upon their own construct of beliefs because of themselves. Not that people don't intentionally hurt other people, that does happen, but, you know, how we perceive it is about us. Why they're doing it is about them. It's not about us, you know. So it's really important to understand that, and that can give you a little bit of separation too. Like they're not doing it to you, even if it feels like it's about you, which it could be. The other thing I say, still step back and breathe, and I always say have discernment. So this means when information is coming across, I do research it. Is that true? And I mean, I research it if it's important to me. And I don't focus on everything because it would be too much for me. I don't want to spend hours of every day researching. But if it's important to me, is that true? And really researching it. And then really looking into it and allowing myself to be led into different places with that. And questioning. Being in a place of question. And getting heart-centered and feel into your truth. Now, I will say a lot, you know, what is your intuition about this? What is your truth about this?
Right.
What I would say is, we all have, like you said, that choice in that moment, and we have a choice of how we react or respond. Responding is the choice when we take that moment to respond. Their stuff isn't about us, so if we can separate from that and then move into a response that's more loving. I have had a lot of clients come to me during COVID, though, that are incredibly triggered. And so sometimes, because of the beliefs we have, we get incredibly triggered by things. And it makes it really hard because that's our subconscious at work, and we don't know what that is. It's like just playing out something, and we are in this fight or flight, anxiety. Oh my gosh, I am unsafe. And that is valid because that's what you're feeling. So I've had quite a few clients come to me for those specific things, and then we end up healing usually generational trauma having to do with whatever events are happening. So to keep in mind that those exist too. And once again, if you can get into that space and heart, that's also a place that you can start releasing some trauma in your body too. But to keep that in mind, and that you don't have to do it alone. If it's really in that space, you know, if it's incapacitating. Without any judgment. We're all in a different journey here. We have seen collectively during this time people's trauma come up in a really big way. And trauma is a very expansive subject that is not necessarily easily taken care of, that people know that they have tools, that there is things available to help them. And we have seen as whole groups, as large areas, as this trauma has been raised, and we've seen behavior that sometimes is beyond us to understand. So take it back to you, take it back to your heart, take it back to your response, take it back to how do I want to respond to this? That doesn't mean we allow certain things, that's a different thing. But it's really shifting the focus and realizing it's actually not about us. And clearing whatever's within us that needs to be cleared. What can we do in this moment? That's not to say we ignore that. So there's a difference between ignoring the outside world and just taking a step back and getting centered. Mm-hmm.
And knowing the outside world is right there.
That's so true. It's there. Yeah. So I actually don't watch much news. I watch enough to know what's happening. Yeah, I think it's important to know and then I do research the stuff that I hear. But whether you believe one way or this other person believes a different way, it's not about me. Either way, I can sit in space for that. But I don't choose to focus all my time on that because that doesn't serve. I'm not in the political arena, although I do vote, so it's important for me to understand what I'm voting for. So I pick and choose where I focus my attention.
That is so important because each one of us has that opportunity to sit with, I get a choice, always, right?
Always.
And although my choice is about me, the rest of it is a screen, yeah, it's a movie playing out. You've got characters in your movie, but you know, this is your movie.
And sometimes people are called to step out and do things within that movie. So I'm not saying that you don't do that either if you're being called to do that.
Yeah.
It's just a moment to take a step back and be in that space and to be able to see it clearly. And yeah.
So, how, I know a lot of times people have different beliefs about prayer. And in the simplest of terms, and in your journey, and how you actually even work with people, can you describe how prayer works with what you do?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure I've ever been asked that. I pray all the time, and I absolutely do focused prayer, if we looked at it as such a thing. Prayer is calling to divine and being in communion with and listening. That's the most important aspect of it, is what's the listening. But prayer is not religious. So when I work with people, it's not about what are you Christian? Are you Buddhist? Are you Lutheran? Are you what is your religion? None of that matters. It is important that when people come to me, they have at least a belief in something beyond them, even if they call it the quantum field, which it is.
Sure.
Quantum field exists.
Yes.
You know, do they call that source? Do they call it divine? Do they call it God? Whatever that is. When we're connecting to that, prayer is incredibly important for me. But there's different ways to pray. We have to know it doesn't have to be the way we think it does, unless you want that to be that way. I mean, it's all open to possibility. What I do is about connecting in to whatever that grid is to you. God, source, creation, quantum field, oneness, light, beyond the light, the greatest light. What is that? It is about going to that space, knowing, perceiving the connection to it, because we're always there. That space exists inside and outside ourselves. Connecting into that exists, and asking and praying. It's a focused meditation. It's a focused prayer. And if people don't like prayer, meditation works, because it's just a different word. It's a different word for something. It is a connection with, an asking of, and a witness to divine moving through our lives. And all of that, and it can be as simple as, in this moment, sitting here before we started, you know, Creator, divine, be with me, please, deeply. And allowing myself to feel that flow through me, so that I can be centered here. That's a simple, prayer doesn't have to be Holy Father God, although it can be, and that's beautiful too.
And in any moment. So one other word I've heard used quite a bit lately, well, and even, let's say, last 30, 40 years, is intention.
That's a really good way to say it, absolutely.
So, and of course, as you were sharing earlier, for some of us, a certain word really triggers a either a trauma or a belief cascade that's...
There are a lot of religious beliefs out there, and a lot of them can be very limiting and painful. So,
that says
yeah.
this, but not that.
Right. And I always honor people. So whenever I have a new client in, I always ask, well, how do you resonate with this? This is, everything that I do is about a connection and a focused connection to all that is, to the energy of creation. I have no preference, whether we call that God, creation, source, universe, quantum field, it's all the same. So I don't have a preference. So I'll ask people, what are you comfortable with? What is that? With that said, when we connect to that energy, man, there's some really beautiful energies that will flow through. I know for a fact that Jesus, Buddha, Mother Mary, all of these energies, these divine presences do exist. Absolutely, unequivocally. However, I also believe that if you're not open to them, they probably won't come forward for you. Except they have sometimes. And then I ask, are you open to this? Prayer is a beautiful way for us to connect and communicate, but prayer starts in the heart, and it can be an emotion. It is that connection. It does not have to be complicated, though it can be, and it can be beautiful. So there isn't a right or wrong. Prayer, meditation, intention, attention, all of that connects us into divine. Just knowing that that is who we are at center, that we're part of that, and that we can connect to that instantly, and that we can receive those messages instantly without a formalized prayer or meditation or intention, that's very powerful.
Oh, that is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Well, in coming to the completion of our chat, is there any additional words that are coming through you at this moment that you would like put out there?
That's good. You've asked me some really interesting questions today, so I appreciate that. Because I had to think about things I don't necessarily think about, or I haven't focused a ton on, so that's good. The one thing I am hearing that is so important for people to understand, and I believe this is what we are awakening to. So sometimes people don't, when we say words like awakening and enlightenment and those kind of words, sometimes people get turned off.
Correct.
Because they think it's kind of woo-woo, which it is. But those kind of things will get people, oh my goodness. Here's the thing. Awakening is simply opening up to who you really are. That's all it is. So we're all awakening. All of us on different levels. Some of us choose a path that might go down before we come up, but there's different pathways to get to that. That's what we're here. We're here to move into wholeness, to know, this is who we are. So wherever you are on that scope with those words that can be woo-woo, we are infinitely divine beings, and it exists at the center of who we are in every cell of our body. That is who we are. It exists in here. There is a part of us that has no wounds. There is a part of us that I know deeply is limitless, expansive, and is still growing. And then we have a part of us that through, depending on your belief system, you can just look at epigenetics, through collective conscious, through beliefs we have from this lifetime, through what we carry in our DNA, that hold a whole lot of wounding and trauma and false beliefs, and at the center of everything is a belief that's creating the trauma in everything we're experiencing. We carry that on a soul level. We can have wounded souls. We can be so hurt that we don't know how we get back up. That happens. Suffering is a condition we have in this body that is not something that I will ever, I pray, not feel compassion for, and empathy for, and prayers for an end to. But what I hear distinctly is the pathway through to the end of that suffering is not a journey outside ourselves to getting approval from everyone else. It is a journey inside ourselves to that connection point of pure divine, outside ourselves to knowing that divine exists, or quantum field, or energy, or that exists,
Or woo-woo.
or woo, which I love too. It exists, and it's here to infinitely support and love us. And knowing that truth, that that is what we are love, we are peace, we are, it's like we are layers of an onion, that is at the core, and then we have these layers. And it is through peeling back the layers that you can finally see that core. And when the core comes through, when that light shines through, you are never going to forget that. You may have moments of time where the wounding comes back in and you're healing that, but that core is there and it's here to shine brightly. And I believe we are awakening to that. And we have been, always. But now is a time, I mean, you have no choice when we're going through what we're going through to move, to make choice in one direction or another. And I believe right now deeply we are awakening to that inside on a level that I don't believe we ever have before.
Right, so the conscious collective
Yes.
is just seeing that let's wake up. Let's switch on the light to who each individual human being on this
Yes.
planet is expressing their individual essence
Mm-hmm.
out of the, I just heard collective consciousness too for another word.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like you said, we have
Mhm.
all different descriptive ways for hopefully anyone who gets triggered by one can appreciate another.
Absolutely, and that's beliefs. When you're triggered by those kind of things, that's beliefs. That doesn't mean that you can't have your beliefs about what you believe. This doesn't mean that you move out of alignment with your deep belief. If you have a deep belief in Jesus, it doesn't mean that you step out of that.
Correct.
It's just an honoring for where everybody else is at. It's just because it's beliefs that create whether we're able to honor, even if we are holding true to who we are, or whether we're unable to. You know,
Wow.
at center is love. The question is that a loving action? Is that a loving thought? Is that a loving, and I'm not perfect, absolutely not, in that, without judgment. But that's where we're moving back into. That's the space, and the message I hear over and over, it is through knowledge, through seeing that light that shines through of who you really are and not who you've been told you are, that you can really shift within this lifetime. So that you can experience it here. So it's not about woo-woo. It's about awakening to your divine potential, to doing. You have a book to write. If you know it in here, but you don't give yourself permission. It's about you being passionate about helping children. Maybe that's what it is. Or you're a teacher, or you're a nurse, or you build things. You know you're meant to build things. That's no less divine than me as a healer sitting here working with the woo every day.
Exactly.
It's all part of who we are. And so when we can connect to that truth and be in that place, and all aspects of our life can move into alignment with that, and it's a progression and it's a healing, and there are moments where we move out and we're learning something and there's something else to come in. It's a fluid state.
Isn't it a beautiful dance?
But when you know at center, you are infinitely loved. You are beautiful. You are worthy. You just are. And you are supported and loved by divine infinitely. That is truth. That is my biggest message. You are supported and loved by divine infinitely, and there's nothing you have done or not done that can change that. And while somebody in your life may not give you that grace, that mercy, that beauty, that love, it's not about that. It's there for you. And so that allows all healing to happen. All healing.
So profound.
Yeah.
And amen.
Thank you.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And so that means I have to take that for myself too. That means I have to believe that for me.
Wow.
That's been my journey. Like, okay, I'm hearing this is true. How do I believe it for me? Yeah. I wonder how.
And the journey continues.
Always, always more expansive, always more unlimited, always more stepping in instead of stepping out. Mhm.
And what a beautiful, absolutely joy-filled, fun way to continue.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has just been exceptionally fun.
Thank you.
It
It has been so much fun.
just,
Yeah.
namaste, Sara.
Oh, namaste. Thank you for doing this and for facilitating this and allowing this to flow.